In our message today, I was so excited. I received emails from 3 of you of how you have been putting into practice these ideas from our 12 Powers series. And I'm going to start with an email that I received from Dale Miller. Dale, you'll hear it in his email. Dale says, I promised you a report on how I was doing with will and understanding this week. I hoped to be able to report having wonderful success applying these principles. Unfortunately, that is not the case. I'm feeling the weight of the world more so than I can ever remember. As one of Cuyahoga County's leaders, it is my responsibility to help clean the virus out of Cuyahoga County. Yesterday's depressing numbers added to it. I've been trying to ask more questions and make positive suggestions. As a legislator, rather than an executive, there is a lot that I don't control, but I feel that I should be able to do more. Meanwhile, my personal discipline is weakening. I've gained 8 pounds during the pandemic because you just stay at home and eat. Certainly, will alone is not enough to deal with these things. Even with will and understanding, it is a struggle. I'm still trying to find it, but the hill seems to get steeper and longer. It seems to get steeper the longer this goes on. If there was ever a time when a strong focus on unity principles is called for, this is it. So some of you might be like Dale in the struggle of applying these ideas into practice. Okay, understand. Give yourself permission to not get it all the time, and then get up, try again, and practice some more. So I want to share with you 2 more emails that I receive, and perhaps Dale and those of you who are in the struggle can find some ideas within what other congregants are doing to support themselves during this time. So the first one is coming from Cats. And so Cat's email said, Here I sit in the Mazda dealership, having some work done that I have put off forever. I just finished the prayer call. It is wonderful that this way of starting my morning is so transportable. The fact that I made the appointment, the fact that I committed to the prayer call in the middle of the service department, that's not me, but it is me. The me that I remember, the me that I have slowly let go over the years. First came the commitment to order. I committed to getting up early enough to be awake for the prayer call. From that came strength, my belief in my ability, and more order. I have since used my will to follow a structured time in the morning based on the understanding that this structure is working for me. And so it goes on. Thank you, Kat, for those words of inspiration of how you are using these ideas in your life. And the last one comes from Greg Scudderin, who writes a weekly blog for Unity Spiritual Center. You can find that online on our website. And this is what Greg has to say. God does indeed stand under everything. This week, I will make a conscious effort to see precisely how God is moving in, through, and as the world we see, particularly in situations where disagreements occur. This will provide me with ample opportunities to change my mind by approaching life not from the place of fear, but from a God-centered perspective, and when appropriate, to change my mind based on new information and experiences. So thank you, Greg, not only for writing our blog, but for continuing to practice these ideas yourself. And Dale, for sharing so vulnerably, authentically, openly about your struggles. And for all of you who are making your way through this time, I truly trust that as I share how others in our community are responding to these things, practicing these ideas, it supports and inspires you as well. So continue to send me those emails. Let me know how you are putting into practice these ideas. Today we are moving on in our series of our 12 powers. We have been going, I guess this is week 5. So week 1 we talked about the unifying dyad of love and wisdom. And in week 2 we looked at the presencing dyad of life and renunciation. Week 3 we looked at the stabilizing dyad of strength and order. And last week we looked at the executive dyad of will and understanding. And today we're moving on to the manifesting dyad of faith and imagination. So as I've been doing, I wanted to start with a few words from Phil Pearson, whose book we're using, The 12 Freedoms, and share with you what Phil has to say about imagination and faith. What is meant by being a co-creator is that we shape the energy that God has given us into forms, experiences, or events that we can claim as our actions. We don't create them, we manifest them. Manifest means readily perceived by the senses, especially by sight. I, Phil, define the faith faculty as the mind's ability to conceive of what is real for us and our total life environment. It is our mind's concept of reality. Through the power of our faith faculty, we manifest our own lives. Imagination is the mind's ability to perceive reality. Faith deals with forming ideas and beliefs about what is real, while imagination deals with sensing or seeing what is real. Imagination can help us evolve our lives into an ever more fulfilling experience. Those words from Phil Pearson. So I have to be honest with you. This is how Phil describes faith. Faith is the ability to conceive, and imagination is the ability to perceive. And I started to get very confused because you see, Charles Fillmore's definition of faith is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the ability to shape substance. And so it seems to me like Phil is looking at these differently. And initially, as I started my study on these particular chapters, I was getting very confused. And then I decided to put the words perceive and conceive out of my mind, and let's just come back to the ideas that are behind imagination, which is our supporting part of the dyad, and faith, which is our active portion of the dyad. So I'm going to start with imagination. We all have the power to imagine. We are all using the power of imagination all the time. Those ideas and stories and pictures that are constantly going on in our mind are simply the power of imagination at work. Sometimes that looks like worry. Sometimes that looks like vision. Power of imagination in each case. So this is our centering dyad, right? It's what we place our faith in. Faith, as Charles Fillmore says, is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the ability to shape substance. So faith has something to do with bringing something into manifestation. And imagination is what is that idea that we're wanting to bring into manifestation. So before I get too much into that, I wanted to share a few words from Phil's book, additional words, because these became the elephant in the book for me. I wanted to just ignore them and not talk about them today, but I figured that was kind of the cowardly way out. So instead, I'm going to share the elephant in the book that Phil writes about. We are told that we should not be around people sneezing from a cold, nor should we hold hands, hug, or kiss them. We know that if you do, you are most bound to get a cold too. We are told that school children catch colds from other children at school, and then the parents in turn catch colds from their children. We all know about that reality. Most people live with it. I have used the pronoun we because it is such a mass reality. Hopefully, it doesn't fit your idea of reality. It's not a good one, but the world in general is in bondage up to their necks when it comes to the good old common cold. All we have to do is use our faith faculty to conceive and claim a different reality. We want to affirm my reality is that I do not catch colds. I may manufacture one by getting overtired or run down, but I do not catch colds. If we live in that reality, whatever germs are around find no living space in us. Many of you, as I, have claimed that reality and rarely, if ever, have a cold. So I read that and I thought, here we are in the midst of a virus that has created a worldwide pandemic. What does it look like to have faith in the reality that I cannot catch that virus. Some of you are at a level of consciousness like Phil that you are able to hold that idea in mind and have no concerns about getting ill. And I commend you for that. Others may not be at that level of consciousness. Within our spiritual community are a variety of people at a variety of levels of consciousness. And we place no order on our level of consciousness, right? We are all just at different points of understanding and of living out these spiritual principles. I think about Jesus, and I think about his ability to see each one whole, invoking the power of his imagination to see each one that came to him for healing in that place of wholeness, and with the faith that he had and that that person had for the healing and the wholeness then to be demonstrated. But I have to be honest with you. As your spiritual leader, I am not at that level of consciousness. I imagine that Jesus could lead this community and say, yes, come back to Unity Hall. I can hold the vision for us all, that we will all be well. We will all be whole. We will demonstrate that wholeness, and this virus has no power over us. But I am here to admit that I do not have that level of consciousness. I cannot hold that for everyone who comes into our community. And so for that reason, I stand by our decision to continue to meet live stream, meet virtually, but not in person. Even as I hear these words that Phil is inviting us to. But like every other spiritual idea that I'm learning, I have to practice it and build that spiritual muscle to develop my consciousness to that level of understanding. And I'm inviting you to do the same. So that's the elephant in the book, especially at this particular time. But we can also use the power of our imagination and faith to think about, how am I engaging with my world and this experience of what it is to go through this particular time. And I recognize that I can hold a vision in my mind, either of worry. I can hold a vision worrying about my loved ones, my family, my friends, my spiritual community, worrying that everybody will be well. And that would not be a very helpful place to engage in the power of my imagination. So I have a choice. I can invoke the power of my will and choose a different vision in my mind. And the vision that I am holding in my mind at this time is that it is my intention to move through this time from that place of love. I can hold love in my imagination. And what does that look like? What does love look like at a time when there are so many opinions about whether or not I should wear a mask or not wear a mask? For some people, that love and wisdom that is inspiring them is saying, wear a mask. For others, the love and wisdom that is within them is saying, don't wear a mask. I can invoke the power of my imagination to envision holding each one, no matter what their thought of wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, whether it agrees with me or doesn't agree with me, I can hold them here in the space of my imagination in love. And what does it look like to love those whose ideas of love in this time don't agree with my ideas of love in this time? The same could be said about physical distancing or gathering together. I have my ideas of what love looks like in those times. Your ideas of love in those times may be different than mine. So rather than seeing in my mind how that can create conflict and argument, I'm invoking my power of imagination to say, what would it look like to hold this one in love in my mind, whether they agree or don't agree? I'm going to envision that harmonizing power of love moving through my experience and my relationship with those that I don't agree with. Now that's the imagination part of this dyad. Seeing in mind that which I would like to experience manifest in this reality. Where does faith fit in? So as I said, Charles Fillmore said, faith is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the ability to shape substance. So faith has to do with taking this vision that I see in my mind that I'm grounded in and now beginning to put into my thoughts, my words, my actions, those ways of being so that I can demonstrate that idea. What do I have to have faith in order to move beyond the level of distraction and argument and everything else, separation, limitation? What do I have to have faith in so that I can see this moment from a place of love? I have to have faith in the idea that I have that divine power and presence of God within me. I have to have faith in the knowing that as I engage in each of these powers, I can move forward in my thoughts, my words, my actions, and live that love. I have to have faith in that in order to demonstrate the love that I'm seeing in my mind. I've been giving a lot of thought to our spiritual community during this time. Initially, there was great imagination happening within me and within many of you. Initially, there were so many ideas of how we could connect in community, and you've all said how wonderful it's been to have so many ways to connect. And I'm also recognizing that as time goes on and this continues longer than maybe any of us imagined, there might be some great vision that we as Unity Spiritual Center are called to express, demonstrate, manifest for our spiritual community. So I want you to be watching in your email. It'll likely come out in the e-blast. I have decided that I'm going to have an evening Zoom opportunity for all of us to come together, whoever wants to come together, and hold a greater vision for what Unity Spiritual Center is being called to be and to express during this time, to offer support, to offer opportunities to be inspired in the truth, to offer opportunities for us to continue to connect and be together in creative and imaginative ways. We can sit together and see what that vision is. That's the imagination. But it can't stop there. If it stops there, it'll never demonstrate. So we have to also engage in the active part, the faith on that. And the faith about that is now, what do we believe? How do we bring this into demonstration? So from that evening, what I'm envisioning is that together we will find individuals, people, plans for how we together can take these ideas that we discover and bring them forth into demonstration. I hope that you will consider joining me for that evening. I haven't set the date yet, but I will before the e-blast comes out this week, and then I'll mention it again on Sunday. And that will all take place in our Connecting in Community Zoom room, likely that first week in June. So I look forward to connecting with you then, seeing what is this vision we have, and then how can we with faith apply that vision so that we can manifest and be our highest, greatest selves as spiritual community during this time. So let's talk about one more thing, and that is holy curiosity. I don't want to forget to mention this because as I was thinking about faith and imagination this week, this idea kept coming to my mind of holy curiosity, that imagination is based in holy curiosity. Because one of the things that I notice about myself, and I am only speaking about myself personally, is that I have an idea in my mind about what all of this is about and what all of this means and where all of it's heading, and then I go and gather evidence to prove my point. And guess what? That evidence is not very helpful. And so I have decided to change my mind. And rather than getting evidence that will prove my side, that will prove my point, that will prove my idea I'm holding in my mind, I'm decided that I am approaching my days and my life from this place of holy curiosity. What is today going to bring? What is this moment in time offering to me? I'm going to get curious about it, just like kids do, curious about it, not with preset ideas, but letting my imagination free with holy curiosity. So I hope you'll join me for that. We do have a spiritual practice for this week, and I'm going to find that here. Okay, so take time this week to meditate and contemplate on the manifesting dyad of faith and imagination. Consider where you've been using the power of your imagination to see that which you don't want to demonstrate. Remember, that's called worry. Change your mind. See it right instead. How does seeing it differently impact your faith, your ability to manifest that in your life? Do you have the faith that what you see can be manifested? What kind of faith is that calling forth in you? And then continue to look at all of those other powers that we've talked about, love and wisdom and life and renunciation and understanding and will and strength and order, and consider how all of those are working together with imagination and faith. Send me your emails. Let me know how that's going for you. I look forward to receiving them and sharing them so that we can inspire one another. That is my message for this day. And so at this point, we are going to go back to Eric Fancher, who's going to be singing Somewhere Out There.